Gracias.
Art 101 with Mr. Burgher.
Scholars, welcome back to Art 101 with me, Mr. Burgher. I'm a professional artist and master educator attempting to provide you with the best in art historical content. If you like this video, if you like the others in the series, consider a follow, like, comment, anything that kind of helps me out in the little algorithm thing. I appreciate it. Thank you.
No worries, dude. I am a shameless promoter of myself.
So today's episode is going to be examining Marcel Duchamp, an artist that would change the 20th century, an artist whose ideas would reshape how we interact and act and think about art completely from his point moving forward. And anyway, a lot to get into. Let's jump into it.
Trying to figure out who Marcel Duchamp was is a really tricky challenge. He would call himself an artist, chess player, cheese dealer, and breather. He was indeed all of these things, and yet really so much more. His parents encouraged all of their children to participate in the arts. In fact, 4 of their 6 children became artists. Raymond Duchamp Villain went into sculpture. Suzanne Duchamp was an artist and poet. Jacques became a painter. And then there was Marcel. He got his training at the Academia Julian, but this is a little bit misleading because he hated going to class, and he quite frankly didn't attend very much.
You know, it gets in the way of originality.
In those early years, he was greatly influenced by Henri Matisse's Fauvism, Pablo Picasso and Georges Braque's Cubism, and in general Neo-Impressionism. Throughout his life, he was involved in many influential art groups. One of note was his part in the formation of the Golden Section, which was a painters group, and one of his most successful paintings from this period was his infusion of cubist techniques to show movement across a canvas in a very Fauvist manner. The result was Nude Descending a Staircase number 2. It was criticized by the cubists of Europe. It outraged Americans who viewed it in New York in 1913. It was absolutely scandalous to have the word nude in the title because nude refers to one's lack of power as well as the borrowed verbiage from pornography. He became one of the world's most popular artists overnight because of this painting.
That was shown at the Ambush.
The one the newspaper man called an explosion in a shingle factory.
Yes. That was a great line he put.
Duchamp himself would come to New York largely to seek refuge from World War I, and he was shocked by his popularity in the United States. There he discovered his formula for success: shock the public into loving you. This formula was again tested by Duchamp when he began to work as a Dada artist in the form of his ready-mades. This was the birth of his conceptual works because they are more about the ideas as opposed to the product that he would produce.
That's what the definition of a ready-made is. The choice of the artist is enough to transfer it from a functional or industrial form into supposed to be aesthetic, but very different from aesthetic in general.
For the first time, people could just have them, they could just...
These ready-mades were objects that were taken from their intended purpose and placed into various displays as artistic artifacts, with catchy and witty sorts of titles. A clever idea or shock to the art system. Whatever the idea was, Duchamp's popularity would climb. But he did have some hesitation before jumping into the ready-made concept. It was 1917. The Society for Independent Artists had a show that featured a work titled The Fountain. This was a porcelain urinal that had been bought at a plumbing supply shop and placed on display as a work of art. Again, completely unwilling to take credit for it. This exhibition was chaired by Marcel Duchamp himself, so of course he couldn't take credit for this. As a matter of fact, he didn't even sign his name to it. he signed the name R. Mutt. The organizers and jurors were abuzz having a discussion over this thing, and they decided to throw it out, so Marcel Duchamp, in protest, resigned as the chairman in support of R. Mutt and published a written defense of the artwork. Eventually, of course, he would take credit for the work and would continue to make ready-mades by fusing some manufactured items together with some simple modifications. Side note, in 1920, Marcel Duchamp decided to create an alter ego where he could creatively explore artistic avenues that he might not have done as Marcel Duchamp, similar to what he did with R. Mutt, but this time under the name Rose C'est la Vie, a female alter ego. This was another version of him as an artist, muse, as well as a creative experiment all in one package. C'est la Vie would sit for portraits done by Man Ray, and Duchamp even credited her with several of his sculptures. And perhaps I should do an Art 101 video exclusively on her. Let me know what you think in the comments below.
It's Headbanger's boss. I thought he'd wear a gown.
Dress for the ball. There you go.
But he wouldn't wear his tux. He didn't give me a corsage either.
No. So you hurt his feelings.
At least I asked you out.
Perhaps one of Duchamp's most known Dada works was his penciled-in mustache and a goatee on a print of the Mona Lisa that he called LHOOQ, or LHOOQ, meaning she has a hot ass.
It's a horrible name.
I never considered myself like a professional painter. You know, a professional painter is a man who paints every morning, and he paints either quickly or slowly, but he paints all the time. And painting always bored me, imagine. So I had a hard time finishing a painting, what you call finishing, at least ending, and it took me some months. Even the nude took me at least 2 months to paint it, you see. And that time already people did paint in no time, in 5 minutes, 10 minutes for paintings. That was already the fashion. And I'm opposed to that, and even now I'm opposed to the idea of painting fast. Or I think I don't believe in the magic of the hand. You know, the less you think about it, the better it is. None at all. I don't think so. But that's all right. It's a little private theory of mine.
This graphic of disrespect is a Dada expression against art and artistic culture. Fed up with the small-minded art market, Marcel Duchamp became an anti-artist. In 1923, he quit making art and was refocused. He began to work as an art critic and professional chess player. He lived and worked between his French homeland and his adopted home in the United States. In 1955, he would become an American citizen. Most of his art criticisms were done in collaboration with Dada surrealists Max Ernst and André Breton. He was one of the most, if not the most, influential artists of the 20th century. Whether or not you like his art, it really makes no difference to what it is.
Putting myself in the right position for that ideal public, because the danger is to please an immediate public, the immediate public that comes around you and takes you in and accepts you and gives you success and everything. Instead of that, if you wait for your public that should come 50 years, 100 years after your death, that's the right public I want.
Duchamp changed the visual arts, like my favorite band Nirvana with frontman Kurt Cobain changed music. But it didn't stop when Kurt Cobain passed away, just like the art didn't stop with Marcel Duchamp. People would be influenced and changed, and that force would continue to move forward. Just like we saw with many bands, including the Foo Fighters, continuing on after Nirvana, we saw artistic expression continuing after Marcel Duchamp in the ways of Alexander Calder, Saul LeWitt, Salvador Dali, and hundreds of artists that were influenced for decades.
Hey, shut up.
Most every artist during and after the time of Marcel Duchamp was influenced by him. He was the pusher of his concepts regarding art. Although he swore off art, he did create a secret room in his house where he would create and work art that was completely sealed off, completely unknown until the time of his death. His ideas literally made op art, kinetic art, pop art, cinema, art criticism, installation, and many other streams of what we know as art today.
There are art teachers who feel that their role is to teach taste.
Exactly.
And would you say that they might be better employed in teaching people to challenge taste?
Yes, they should. They should at least, if not challenge, at least completely be indifferent to it, or make the difference, which is difficult to detect. What is taste and what is aesthetic, again, because after all, in our period, in a cycle of 50 years, there'll be some of the paintings or some of the art which would be remembered and kept in the museums, evidently, we hope so. So what is going to be aesthetics of our time or taste of our time? We cannot decide. We are in it, so we are not supposed to decide even. But I mean, I'm telling you, I'm giving you the problem for posterity, which we won't be there to look for the result.
I tell you what, I love bringing you that story. Thanks for following along, and we'll see you on the next one. You have yourself a great day out there.
Take care of each other, and I'll take care of me. I love, 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 love you guys. Sleep tight.